face the eternal consequences.
Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell's formidable friendship has been very well presented on the big screen, given the director-actor duo have collaborated for almost a dozen movies. Their first professional Hollywood project was The Evil Dead 1981, with the latest being the MCU Doctor Strange installment of the Multiverse of Madness in 2022. These two can be very well credited for producing impressive classical horror and superhero thriller movies that have captivated the audience for almost 4 decades now. Today in this video, we are gonna explore the 10 best movies of the Raimi-Campbell partnership that have remained memorable with the fans even years later. We are gonna discuss the brief plot of the respective movies, and then analyze Bruce Campbell's role and contribution to them. Well, let us then begin. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The Evil Dead. The first on the list undeniably had to be the supernatural classic horror movie, The Evil Dead. The film's poster branded it as the most ferocious original horror film of the year. And well, they weren't lying either. The story is of 5 college friends. Ash Williams, portrayed by Bruce, his girlfriend Linda, his sister Cheryl, their friend Scott, and his girlfriend Shelley. All 5 of them are on an excursion in rural Tennessee, where they have accommodated themselves in a secluded and outlying cabin. Soon upon their arrival, strange and inexplicable events begin unfolding. Cheryl, Ash's sister, happens to draw a picture of a clock that suddenly stops working. She then hears the demonic murmurs telling her to join us, and before she can make sense of any of these, her hand gets possessed and she involuntarily sketches a book with a demonic face on its cover. Although terrified, she finds it best to not discuss this to others. Later at dinner, the men of the group decide to check the cellar when its trapdoor strangely flies open. The two find a tape recorder belonging to archaeologist Raymond Nobi and the Naturom de Monto, the Sumerian version of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. The tape then plays the spell meant to resurrect the demons, and suddenly, a tree branch shatters the window. Annoyed by the strange noises she has been hearing all evening, she decides to go and investigate the woods, but is brutally grappled and injured by the branches of the demonic trees. Disturbed and terrified, she asks Ash to take her back to the town, but to their horror, they realize that they have been trapped in this haunted house by the demonic entity. After this, the movie follows multiple trials of demonic possession, beheading, and mutilating the possessed person, burying them, shooting them, and the dead person rising back again, more sinister and evil to hunt the living. The scenes are extremely gory and uneasy to watch, especially the ones where pests start creeping out of the faces of the corpses, while they turn into demons, and how each of their bodies rots and turns into a deadite. In the climax, Ash has somehow escaped the cabin after killing Linda, Scott, and Cheryl, but before he can leave the woods, he is attacked by an unseen devil. Bruce Campbell's character, Ash Williams, is the only known survivor from the vacation who didn't die initially. His role was somewhat traumatic, given he had to ruthlessly kill his friends, his girlfriend, and his sister after they had become host to the demonic spirits. He destroyed the Book of Dead, but still fell prey to the satanic evil forces at the end. The Evil Dead 2. The premise of this movie is the same as the previous one, but this time, it's just Linda and Ash who are vacationing at the cursed cabin. The plot is the same till the Book of Dead is discovered at the Montrose and Nobi's tapes to revive the dead from the graves. The demons possess Linda, and Ash decapitates her and buries her deep, only for her headless ghost form to return and attack Ash. Meanwhile, Ash is also momentarily under the devil's influence, but then inexplicably returns to normal. The movie also features Nobi's daughter Annie and some other people. It is then revealed that Nobi's wife, Henrietta, was possessed by the Kandarian demon and had been buried in the cellar, when all of them realize that they are trapped together in the middle of the woods among savage demonic creatures and deadites. They just try to save their lives in whatever way possible. Annie, with the help of Ash, tries to put together the missing pages of the books so that she can send back the now revived Henrietta and free Ash from the grip of the hellish entity. The movie could be described as a diabolical horror comedy, even though there is plenty of butchering and dismembering of bodies with chainsaws and stabbing. All of these brutish and nasty scenes are compensated by the comedic elements in the movie. There are scenes when an eyeball just flies over the room and gets in someone's mouth, and the decaying corpses just dancing and screaming around funny jump scares. All make this movie an absolute entertainer. Bruce, again, is the protagonist here, but this time he has a more extroverted role. He takes it upon himself to fight with every Deadite who has been awakened. The Chainsaw Hand was one of the first of its kind in the horror movie genre that was widely loved by the audience. The movie ends with Ash getting sucked into a whirling temporal vortex, along with the demon, and then landing up in the Middle Ages. He is arrested by knights there who presume him to be a Deadite, but soon an actual harpy-shaped Deadite appears and frightens the people. Ash pulls out his shotgun and aims it at the creature, thus destroying him with a blast. Mystified, the people began hailing him as their hero, who had specially come to save them. Army of Darkness. The 1992 movie is the third installment of the Evil Dead universe, and it continues from where the previous one ended. Ash, the 20th century guy with a shotgun, is now trapped in the Middle Ages. The guy ain't alone, as he is within himself, his other form that has been possessed by the demonic creatures, and is constantly in struggle to subdue it. Ash learns from the wise man that the only resort to returning to his time is through the magical verses of Necronomicon Ex Mortis. Ash finds 3 books inside, and is now unable to recall the last word of the phrase that was told to him by the wise man that would allow him to find the correct book. Unknown to him, his ruse had failed, and his body's copy rises from the dead, uniting all other Deadites into the Army of Darkness. He then decides to use the knowledge from the textbooks in his 1973 Oldsmobile Delta 88, and with some help from the Duke, counter the army of the corpses and skeletons with the people of the town. Ash successfully leads the battle and triumphs over the Deadites, and also destroys the evil Ash. Using a passage from the Necronomicon, the wise man enables Ash to return to his present era. At the climax, Ash narrates the story to a fellow employee at a departmental store. As he is engaged in conversation with his female colleague, a surviving Deadite attacks the customers, but Ash kills it using a Winchester rifle and exclaims, "Hail to the king, baby," before kissing his coworker. Bruce yet again is impressive beyond appreciation in this apparently described dark fantasy comedy film. He is funny, irresponsible, and unafraid of the dead or the demons. His action scenes are power-packed as well as funny, and his dialogue delivery is just chef's kiss. It is truly one of Bruce's best works. Darkman. This 1990 movie is a superhero film that follows the story of a scientist, Dr. Peyton Westlake, who is immersed in an experiment towards developing synthetic skin so that he could help the burn victims. His experiment initially fails as the skin dissolves after 99 minutes. Following a breakthrough, Peyton realizes that the synthetic skin is photosensitive, as the light causes the material to melt. However, before he can proceed with his experiment, the real estate mafia, Robert G. Durant, arrives with his minions in search of an incriminating document that Peyton's lawyer girlfriend, Julie, had left behind. The thugs brutally torture and murder Peyton's lab assistant, Yakatito, and then immerse Peyton's face in the pool of acid. Robert rigs the lab to explode and escapes with the documents. Westlake is thrown into a lake after the blast, but he survives. While being treated in the hospital, he is subjected to experimental neurological procedures to eliminate the physical pain from his burns. However, the side effects of the experiment render severe emotional damage, as he becomes extremely aggressive and also gains enormous strength. He escapes the hospital, returns to his abandoned laboratory, and tries to restart the experiment of generating synthetic skin that he could use over his scarred face. Peyton vows to take revenge and tracks Robert and his thugs. He takes pictures and then creates the mask of Robert's and his associates' faces. Using his identity theft, he creates distrust among all. Later, it is revealed that Robert and the other hitmen were working for Strack, Julie's boss. She then discovers that the supposed documents were incriminating documents that could prove that her real estate developer boss had been bribing the zoning commission. She also states that she knows Peyton is alive. After she leaves, Stark commands Robert to kidnap Julie and then kill Peyton. The end of the movie follows Peyton meeting Strack after impersonating Robert and killing him while rescuing Julie. He shows Julie his face, which has been burnt beyond recognition. Julie tries to convince him to return back to her and his normal life, but Peyton denies, realizing that the quest for revenge has made him an aggressive and vicious person. He slips away and pulls up a mask while Julie tries to look for him in the crowd. The mask of the last person Peyton disguises is that of Bruce Campbell. Standing amidst the crowd, he looks back at Julie, who is desperately searching for him, with sadness descending on his face. He leaves, knowing that he might not be the best option for Julie now. Crimewave. The movie follows the story in a flashback of a promising young technician, Victor Ajax. Ajax has now been sentenced to death by electrocution. We then learn that he used to work for a company called Trend Odegaard, where the former partner, Trend, had been planning to get Odegaard murdered by hiring 2 exterminators. The reason is that Odegaard had been contemplating selling the security company to Ronaldo, also known as the Heel, to avoid any suspicion or proof of his connection with the hitman. Trend distracts Victor when he tries to install a security camera at his apartment. He convinces Victor to finally go on a quest to find his dream girl. From there, the movie runs into all conundrum and chaos. Mrs. Trend and many other residents run afoul of the killers, and then many inexplicable and random murders occur, for which Victor is framed. When Nancy, Victor's love interest, gets targeted to be murdered, Vic saves her and ultimately kills the 2 exterminators. The movie ends with Nancy arriving at the nick of time before Victor's execution and confessing his innocence, thus acquiring him, and the 2 get married. The role of Ronaldo the Hill is played by Bruce Campbell. He is a young, charismatic man who charms women wherever he goes. In one of the scenes, even Nancy is enamored of Ronaldo, even though his role is a guest appearance. It's witty and entertaining. Within the Woods. The story has the same setting as the first Evil Dead, with 4 teenagers visiting a remote cabin amidst the woods to spend some romantic time together. Bruce decides to camp on an Indian burial ground despite his girlfriend Ellen's concern, as he claimed that if they leave the graves unbothered, nothing wrong would happen. However, his curiosity gets the better of him, and he takes an ancient dagger from the graveyard belonging to the Native American. After this, sinister events begin to follow. First, with Ellen discovering Bruce's dead body, severely mutilated in the woods. Petrified, she starts to return to the cabin but is chased by an unidentified demonic presence. Reaching the cabin, she informs the other couple, Scotty and Shelley, about everything she had witnessed. Dismissing it to be some kind of joke, Scotty decides to go into the woods and find Bruce. When he doesn't return immediately, Shelley steps out in search of the missing men, but a possessed Bruce attacks and kills her with a dagger while moaning, "Join us." Ellen then mistakenly stabs Scotty, assuming him to be the possessed Shelley, before she can help him. The demonic Bruce assaults Ellen. She somehow manages to chop off one of his hands, but to no avail. All her attempts to flee fail as Bruce gets hold of her while throwing her around the cabin. While being strangled, Ellen stabs Bruce with the dagger and further dismembers his body with an axe so that it won't rise again. Traumatized by everything that had transpired, Ellen rocks back and forth, but soon the corpse of Scotty springs up ready to pounce on Ellen. This 1978 movie is presumed to be the prequel to the Evil Dead franchise that followed in the 1980s. Bruce Campbell plays Bruce, who has turned out to be the first victim of the devilish entity that roams in the woods and in the cabin. He is also kind of responsible for igniting the demon, as he had messed up at the Indian burial ground while taking with himself that dagger. His role is terrifying and induces goosebumps every single time his mutilated zombie body comes to the screen to haunt others.
Fine. We're gonna die!
Oz the Great and Powerful. The Disney fantasy adventure film is set in 1905 when a magician from Kansas City, Oscar Diggs, is sucked into a tornado while he is in a hot air balloon and has been transported to the mystical place, the Land of Oz. He meets a fairly inexperienced and young witch, Theodora, who assumes Oscar to be the prophesied wizard who would ultimately kill the Wicked Witch and become the King of Oz. Reaching Emerald City, Theodora's elder sister, Evanora, tells Oscar that the devilish witch resides in the dark forest and can only be killed if her magic wand is destroyed. En route to the forest, Oscar is joined by an orphaned living China doll, who too had been a victim of the witch's atrocities. The flying monkey, Finley, is also accompanying them. Upon arrival, it is revealed that the Wicked Witch is indeed the late king's daughter, Glinda the Good Witch, and Evanora is the truly wicked one. The movie follows with Glinda and Oscar leading the army of Quadlings, Tinkers, and Munchkins to fight and escape Evanora's army of the Winkies and flying baboons. In the end, Glinda is seen destroying Evanora's emerald necklace and resorts to her original hag-like appearance. Glinda doesn't kill her, rather banishes her from the city. Oscar is then crowned as the King of Oz, and he kisses Glinda, expressing how thankful he is to her for making him a better person. Bruce Campbell has a rather negligible role, more like a cameo, as he plays one of the Winky guards at the Emerald City. The Quick and the Dead. In the 19th century, a mysterious gunslinger woman, known as the Lady, arrives at the deserted Old West town of Redemption. The town is governed by an outlaw-turned-mayor named Joe Harrod. Harrod organizes a single-elimination shooting tournament where a contestant either dies or submits. Anyone could participate and challenge any other contestant, and no challenge could be refused. The lady also decides to participate, given the handsome cash prize for the winner. The gunfighting competition is now majorly among 4 participants, one being Harad, a young kid who believes that Harold is his father, Court, a former gangster with exceptional gunfighting skill, who has now denounced violence, and the lady, Ellen. In the first round, Ellen, the kid, and Harold swiftly defeat their opponents. In the second fight, Ellen faces off with Eugene Dredd and eventually kills him as he attempts to molest the young daughter of the saloon owner. Upset, she leaves the town. It is then revealed in the background that Ellen seeks vengeance as years ago. Harad gang members had lynched her father, who is the marshal in Redemption Town. Toward the end of the movie, Court shoots at Ellen and the kid faces off with Harad and is killed. The next morning, Ellen returns back, implying that she had indeed faked her death. Court kills the remaining of Harad's henchmen, and Ellen finally reveals her identity, throws her father's badge at Harad, and shoots him. Tossing the badge to Court, Ellen comments, "The laws come back to town," and rides away. Bruce Campbell in the movie plays the role of a wedding shimp. Spider-Man. Nerdy teenager Peter Parker is bitten by a genetically engineered spider when he visits Columbia University's genetics laboratory with his best friend Harry Osborn. He soon develops the capabilities that spiders have, such as agility, enhanced strength, organic webbing generation, speed, and ability to cling onto walls. Soon, Peter's Uncle Ben is killed, and Peter tracks down the killer, who then eventually falls to his death. Peter now decides to don a spandex suit and mask and utilize his newly acquired powers to fight crime and catch criminals. Meanwhile, Harry's scientist father, Dr. Norman Osborn, has turned into a cynical murderer after the experiment of injecting himself with performance-enhancing chemicals failed. Norman takes up the identity of Green Goblin and assassinates the Oscorp's director while wearing the disguise. Spider-Man faces off with Norman, but leaves after being injured, unaware of each other's real identity. Peter's Aunt Mary invites Harry, his girlfriend Mary Jane, and Norman for lunch. There, Norman identifies Peter's wound and realizes that he is indeed Spider-Man. Norman then injures Mary Jane, and while she is hospitalized, she holds Peter's arm and confesses her love for Spider-Man, as he has been her life savior twice. Harry misinterprets this situation and confesses to his father that Peter has feelings for Mary Jane. That night, Norman captures Mary Jane in a tram car full of children. He asks Spider-Man to choose whom he will save, and then drops both of them from Queensboro Bridge. Peter saves all of them and goes on to fight Norman. Realizing that he would eventually be killed, Norman reveals his true identity to Peter and begs for mercy, while he tries to impale him with a glider. Peter senses this beforehand and dodges the attack, and the glider ends up impaling Norman and killing him. Before dying, Norman begs Peter to not reveal his true identity to his son. Peter takes Norman's body to the Osborn house, where the distraught Harry tries to shoot at him, but he escapes. At Norman's funeral, Harry vows to avenge Spider-Man, whom he holds responsible for his father's death. Bruce Campbell plays the ring announcer in the initial scene, where Peter decides to wrestle in an underground fight club after first realizing his invincible strength. Spider-Man 2. The story begins 2 years after Osborn's death, when nothing on the professional or personal spectrum has been going well for Peter. Harry, to avenge his father's death, has decided to fund a fusion power machine by nuclear scientist Otto Octavian, who befriends and mentors Peter. He has developed an AI-powered harness with 4 metal tentacles to facilitate interaction with the machine. The fusion reaction during the demonstration destabilizes, killing Octavius' wife and fusing the tentacles permanently into his body. The tentacles then corrupt Octavius' mind and convince him to build the machine again to prove his experiment's success. Peter loses his powers and decides to lead a normal life. Meanwhile, Octavius completes his enhanced machine and demands a rare titanium isotope from Harry to fuel it. He also commands Harry to find Spider-Man while using Peter. Octavius captures Spider-Man after his powers have returned, and he tries to stop the New York subway train physically. When Harry unmasks him, he discovers Peter's true identity. The fusion reaction destabilizes again, and Octavius, to escape the undue influence of his AI-powered tentacles, sacrifices himself to drown the machine in the bay. Meanwhile, Harry sees the reflection of his father in the mirror, which seems to be persuading him to hurt Peter, but he refuses. Harry shatters the mirror out of frustration, only to reveal a storeroom of Norman's Green Goblin equipment. Bruce Campbell has a cameo appearance as an usher who refuses Peter's entry for arriving late to Mary Jane Watson's show. Spider-Man 3. A year after Otto's sacrifice, Peter has become a host to an extraterritorial evil symbiote. Harry plans on battling Peter as he considers Spider-Man responsible for his father's death. Using Norman's performance-enhancing gas and Green Goblin, he battles Peter to an eventual stalemate. As a side effect, he ends up developing partial amnesia. A new character, called Marco, or Sandman, is introduced who is absconding the police. He is also the one who is believed to be Uncle Ben's actual killer. Peter soon realizes that the symbiote has enhanced his powers and changed his suit to black, while also amplifying his aggressive traits. Peter locates and battles Marco in a subway tunnel. He then discovers that water is Marco's weakness and opens up a pipe, thus releasing the water supply and turning Marco into mud. As Venom, Brock locates as still living Marco and convinces him to join forces to kill Spider-Man. Brock then abducts Mary Jane, and when Peter requests Harry to help, he declines, but then arrives at the last minute. Brock attempts to impale Peter with Harry's glider, but Harry jumps in and is impaled instead. Peter then recalls the symbiote's weakness and assembles a perimeter of metal pipes to create a sonic attack, weakening it and allowing Peter to separate Brock from the symbiote. The movie ends with Peter forgiving Marco after he explains that Uncle Ben's death was an unfortunate accident. Peter reconciles with Harry before the latter succumbs to his injury. Bruce Campbell appears in the cameo as a French maitre d'. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Bruce Campbell made his latest appearance in the Marvel Universe superhero film in 2022, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. The movie begins with Doctor Strange being approached by a mysterious teenager from an alternate universe, America Chavez. Chavez inherently possesses the ability to transverse the multiverse. Steven and Chavez both are being chased by monsters from different dimensions, and to save themselves, Strange seeks aid from Wanda Maximoff, aka Scarlet Witch. Oblivious to Wanda's true intentions, Strange and Chavez embark on a perilous journey through the multiverse. Not giving away the spoilers, he would talk about Bruce Campbell's role as he appears in the main film and the post-credits as the vendor of an Earth 838 food stall called Pizza Papa. Marvelous verdict. Well, these were 12 of Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell's most spectacular collaborations. These movies do appropriate justice when reflecting Raimi's impressive filmmaking and directing skill, and also explore the wide spectrum of Bruce's acting range, from fighting the zombies in the Evil Dead series to being an underground wrestling ringmaster in the superhero movie. Let us know in the comments section which one happens to be your favorite collaboration of the duo. Stay tuned, and we will see you in the next Marvelous video. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, and be safe. Thanks, everyone.